I do not like the term or phrase eternal security because it gives the wrong idea about salvation. This is why in the Reformation, the phrase endurance of the saints or the perseverance of the saints is so vital because it matches the warning of Hebrews chapter 3. Once saved, always saved gives this idea that once you pray a prayer, you're set.
Yeah.
No matter what happens in the future, even if you deny the gospel, Zane Hodges actually said that even if you deny the gospel, you have eternal security.
Yeah.
That's not the biblical standard.
Yeah.
The biblical standard is once a true believer, always a true believer. Jesus warned us in the parable of the sower that there will be people that claim faith in Jesus Christ that did not actually come to saving faith in Jesus Christ. And the only way you will be able to know is as they endure in the faith, do they continually to the end of their life show fruits of salvation?
Yeah. At the end of the day, if you're going around saying someone who, like our examples, just publicly has no fruit of following Jesus, but you say they're a Christian because they say so, and because at the end of the day, what you're saying is because they said a prayer at one point, so they're a Christian. That's easy believism. It's cheap grace, and it's not good.
Yeah.
You know,
and this really is, there are kind of two issues to deal with here. And the first one is what we're dealing with is easy believism versus lordship salvation. And those terms were kind of phrased that way in the 80s and 90s. But easy believism is this false idea that you can have saving faith in Jesus without actually following Jesus.
Yeah.
And that's important because when we talk about what it means to be a Christian, that is someone with saving faith in Jesus, but Christian means little Christ. It means someone who is following Christ.
Yeah.
So if you are a Christian, if you come to saving faith, you will follow Jesus with your life. That type of transformation is going to happen. It tells us that salvation is by faith alone, apart, from works. It's all of grace. But what we don't realize is that things like easy believism cheapen grace.
Yeah.
It gives us this notion that grace is something that just covers all of our sin, but then it doesn't create anything within us. The free gift of grace in Jesus Christ is that all of salvation is based on his meritorious work on the cross, his righteousness in his life, accredited to our account. That's what justification does. It justifies us. It gives us a righteousness that does not belong to us. But then what happens in that is a new life is put in us that transforms us into people who can have a obedient life where the gospel is concerned. That is the biblical model. There isn't another one. So to say something like, and this is what happened a lot in the 80s and 90s, where they would just pray this prayer.
Mm-hmm.
You're saved. Now let me explain to you eternal security. Now go do whatever.
Yeah.
That's not salvation. That's a false gospel. The true gospel is, yes, I do lead people in a form of a sinner's prayer because salvation is you reconnecting with God. It is you being reconciled to God. But then I tell you, that's the beginning of a much longer conversation that's going to take place over the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Go follow Jesus Christ. Yeah. That is the outcome of the gospel. And so lordship salvation is just what the Bible teaches about following Jesus. The Bible has so much to say about the changes that are going to happen, and there's no following Jesus without making him the Lord of your life. That's what it means. Now, I'm not going to cover lordship salvation in great detail here because that would take a long time. John MacArthur wrote The Gospel According to Jesus and The Gospel According to the Apostles. John Piper's written a great book that we love, What Jesus Demands of the World, and that literally just goes through the imperatives of Jesus and the gospel works. Yeah. And so if you read those books, you will understand what it means to become a follower of Jesus Christ.
Yeah. It's just so important to understand that, yes, we are saved by faith alone apart from works, but the clear testimony of Scripture is that that saving faith is never alone.